show on the planet. Hey, I am DC, the host of Funky Politics, and we are back with you again on today. Man, boy, what a difference a day makes. What a difference a day makes. What a difference a week makes, man. I tell you, we got hurricane season, we got the RNC, we even got Donald Trump still. But anyway, hey, speaking of that, schools are officially open for most of our kids around the country. Others will join right around Labor Day or right after Labor Day. So the results so far are mixed. You got a lot of districts, especially some of the K through 12s, children who have faced some challenges in terms of this COVID virus. It is attacking some of these children that they told us early on, oh, it doesn't bother young people, but now it does. So all of a sudden, not only do we have K through 12, but we also have undergraduates who have returned to these college campuses. I want to make sure, students, you guys please take this thing seriously and adhere to the guidelines. But I want you to listen to a couple of pieces right here.
This morning, quarantine numbers in one Georgia school district on the rise. More than 1,000 students now forced to stay home after dozens tested positive during the first few days of class. Recent photos show students sitting and walking closely together, even taking part in a fire drill with no social distancing. The decision to reopen classrooms igniting debate across the country. One school district in New Jersey going all remote due to a lack of teachers. 375 teachers now saying they won't return because of COVID fears.
Moving on to the coronavirus, the pandemic is making it very hard for.
I was just thinking about that, I want you to see that clip, but I want you to see this other one here about the undergraduate schools.
Moving on to the coronavirus, the pandemic is making it very hard for schools and for colleges to bring students back to class and keep them there. The University of North Carolina's main campus, Chapel Hill, reversed course yesterday, 1 week into the fall semester. It shut down undergraduate classrooms after detecting several COVID clusters among students.
Again, the wonder of technology, folks. But anyway, the clusters are out there. COVID is still there. It's not going away. Please, if you're on these college campuses, my daughter's one at Tennessee State, and she sent me a clip not long ago, the other day, as a matter of fact, showing this. I don't even talk about it. They were not socially distancing, believe it or not. Also, I got to give it to the RNC. The RNC, the Republican National Convention, and you got to give them kudos where it counts. They did roll out some folks who had some telling stories. How the Trump administration has and some of their policies are working in their lives. And here's a couple of thoughts for you to ponder on.
In 2018, a gunman walked into Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and changed my life forever. My name is Andrew Pollock. His name isn't worth saying. One of the seniors walking in the hallways that day was my beautiful daughter, Meadow. She was just months away from graduating and beginning a new life. We were so proud of the woman she had become. But in the hallway on that third floor, the gunman saw Meadow and shot her down the hallway.
Good evening, America. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle. I speak to you tonight as a mother, a former prosecutor, a Latina, and a proud American. And yes, a proud supporter of President Donald J. Trump. Why? Because he is the president who delivers for America. He built the greatest economy the world has ever known for the strivers, the working class and middle class.
I like the way she says that. He built the strongest economy that this world has ever known. These folks really believe some of this stuff too. Kimberly Guilfoyle, who is a former wife of Gavin Newsom, who was at the time the mayor of San Francisco, who's now the governor, of course, the governor of California, but just really interesting. Anyway, racism. Speaking of racism, racism has raised its ugly head once again under the guise of protecting property. 17-year-old took it upon himself to help police the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin, and in that he felt like he could brandish a weapon, looked like it was on the level of an AR-15 or something like that, a rapid-fire weapon. And this young man, and I will say his name, and because it's out there in the public sphere already, Kyle Rittenhouse is considered a murderer in the eyes of me and a lot of others. Listen to a little bit of this right here.
Breaking news on last night's deadly shootings on a protest in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The Associated Press is now reporting a suspect in Illinois has been arrested in connection to at least one of the two shooting deaths last night. The suspect is a juvenile and is expected to be charged with first-degree intentional homicide. More details as we get them.
And those details are there are two killed, and there was one other that was seriously injured, and I think there's 8 other charges. So guess what? We will say his name again, just like they refused to say the name at the RNC of the young lady who was murdered at the hands of police in Louisville, Kentucky. His name is Kyle Rittenhouse, and you can consider him a murderer, right? That's what we think about him right here on Funky Politics. Anyway, get into our guest today. Good brother who has been on our program before, Robert Jackson. Man, you talking about a noted author, lecturer, a motivational speaker. This gentleman has worked in the space of education and been around this country talking, speaking, uplifting, and listening. And I think a lot of times what we need in this country is we need listeners, but we also need doers. Brother Jackson is a principal of Robert Jackson Consulting. He'll be back in a little bit with us to talk about all of this, the pressures on our K through 12 kids, the pressures on our undergraduates out there, this strife we have in our country, this racial strife we got in our country, as well as COVID-19 and the continuing implications on our economic and health lives here in America. Right. So I'll be right back with more on Funky Politics.
Hey, I'm Howard Robertson of R&R on Sports. Have you heard our latest show?
Back with us on R&R on Sports, NBA champion, Brother David West. Welcome back to R&R on Sports. Our good friend, Brother Robert Scoop Jackson. Welcome back to R&R on Sports. My brother, the Grind City Media senior editor. Mike, welcome to R&R on Sports.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, man, and I hope you guys are safe.
Get the updates by downloading the KUDZUKIAN app in the App Store or on Google Play.
KUDZUKIAN.
Hey, we are back, and my special guest with that Black Lives Matter t-shirt on. What's up, my black brother?
Come on, man. What's good, man? How you doing, man? I'm a black man.
I know, brother. Black man in this world trying to make it. Hey, look, I'm hanging
Proud
in
to be
there,
who
brother.
I am.
Man, hanging in there the best we can, Doc. You know, Robert, man, it's good to have you back on the program here on Funky Politics. And, man, since the last time we visited, so much more has happened and ratcheted itself up in our country, brother, from the DNC to the RNC conventions to even more racial strife in our country. Schools are starting to open up, both on the collegiate level as well as on the undergrad or on the K through 12 level. But I want to start right there. I want to start with your space, that education space. College campuses, man, they're facing these COVID outbreaks. Notre Dame, UNC Chapel Hill, North Carolina State just as of recently, Michigan State said, hey, bye-bye. We're sending these undergraduates back to the house because when they've gotten on campus, they have done something other than stay sheltered in place, right? Doc, what do you expect from a 17, 18, 19-year-old who is new to living outside of the home, but now they've been told, hey, no, put your mask on and stay in your dorms? How does that work, Doc? How does that work, Rob?
Well, you know, my son is a senior at Morehouse College here in Atlanta, and he's in his senior year, and, you know, kids are having to go to school. Most schools are going remotely. I mean, it's tough to watch this because, you know, I've been to college and, you know, pledged and had a good time and played football and ran track and, you know, was involved in the college experience, you know, just hanging out, having a good time. You got kids who are 17, 18, 19 going to school during COVID. I mean, that's tough because these kids been working their whole lives to get out of the house and go out and have a good time and go to college and grow up, because we want our kids to go to school and grow up. But right now, we can't do that. We got people who are going to school prematurely, and we see all the COVID cases. Over 1 million cases, over almost 200,000 people have died from this. And for some reason, some of us are still like in a glass box or something, like it's not what's not happening here. And I'm watching these schools, and I live in Georgia, and I see this school in Georgia, and they show a picture of the hallway, and I see all these kids all on top of each other, not social distancing. And that's why the disease is not going anywhere. That's why this pandemic has continued to last longer than it should in the United States, because we are spoiled. We want to do what we want to do when we want to do it. And right now, we need to be social distancing. We should be wearing masks when we're going out in public. We should be washing our hands and doing all the things that we need to do in order to get control of this pandemic. And then we can go back to normal. But other countries have gone back to normal, but they followed the rules. Yeah. And it's frustrating to watch, because the more we do this, the longer we're going to have this pandemic going on.
You know, I want to jump in right there. The parenting piece. You and I both have seniors, because my daughter's a senior at Tennessee State.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the one thing we want them to do is enjoy their, like we did. And man, enjoy your senior year.
Oh,
this is it. After this, your butt on your own, pretty much, right? I don't care what you do, but your butt got to graduate because you on your own.
Yeah, right.
But Doc, you know, and my daughter said, well, Dad, I'm going to go ahead and do the virtual learning. And then last minute, her soror said, well, come on back to campus. We're going. So and I let her go. I mean, what was I supposed to do as a parent?
You as a parent, it's tough. Only thing I do is just like what my mom did with me. I give my son the information, because he has a job, he's working and going to school. And I said, I hate that this is your senior year going through a pandemic, but I want you to make it through the pandemic. So you young people have got to stay safe. You can't just be young and wild like we was. And when it comes to your life, this is your life you're talking about. And people are dying from this thing. You know, you're hearing about all the schools opening and then they're closing, like Notre Dame and some of these other schools, you know, because this pandemic is no joke. It's real. So kids are going to school on top of each other, and then dozens of them are getting coronavirus, and they got to go quarantine for 14 days. And then it's just, if we would just do remote learning for a minute, get this thing under control, then we can get back to normal. So it's tough when you have kids. You have a daughter in college. I have a son in college. It's tough, man, but we still got to be parents, and we still got to guide our kids in the right way. And I give my son the information. What he chooses to do is on him. He's 20 years old.
So, let me stop you right there. So these universities, colleges and universities have invited these students back or said you can come. Should they all have said, look, we can do our part. We understand as a community of educators that in order to help uplift the communities in these states that we have our schools in, we've got to make sure we've got some young people that can come here. Should they have said, look, just stay home, and we'll go ahead and do this thing virtually. We'll let the campus be completely bone dry for a minute. Hopefully we can come back in January if we get this thing under control where you are. Should they have just shut down the campuses, Doc?
I mean, in my opinion, yes, they should have shut down the campuses, because when you're on a college campus having fun, it's kind of hard to social distance from your frat brothers and your friends. And, you know, young men want to interact with the young ladies and vice versa. And it's kind of hard to not go to parties. I mean, you in school, you in college, you know, you're trying to have some fun, and it's a party going on. You like, man, it's a pandemic. It's a party. I seen this young girl that I like, you know, I'm trying to see if she's going to be there. Yeah. You know, so it's too much pressure for me. I would rather just take the first semester, do remote learning, get this thing under control, and then maybe go back in January. But, you know, some people are finding out the hard way. You know, they open up colleges and now they're closing them. You know, I think it wasted a lot of time and a lot of money when they did that.
Well, I think one of those, and I'll say specifically, and because I'm a huge fan of the football program, the University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa. Yeah. You know, the Tide down there, they've had over 560 cases. Wow. I mean, they've had two. Oh my God, they've had two. In one of the dorms, they've had 2 entire floors that had to quarantine, Doc. I mean, you're talking about a dorm that has well over 2,000 young people in them. Wow. And you're talking about per floor, maybe you're looking at maybe 200 or 300 people. Yeah. Why does a university like Alabama not recognize that maybe remote learning is better, but a UNC Chapel Hill with the same storied history, not in the same area though. And I'll caution us. You're looking at the ACC and you're looking at the SEC, but I'll let you take that one on right there, Doc.
Well, I played college sports. I played football in the NCAA and ran track, Division I, and sports is a big money maker in colleges, and most people are thinking about dollar signs over lives. Alabama is a big college program. The football program with Nick Saban in that program brings a lot of money to the university. So it's a lot of pressure there because those scholarships, and you got kids wanting to play sports. Listen, think about yourself at 19 and 20.
Sure.
I played college sports, and I'm 19 and 20. I think I'm invincible.
That's right.
You know what I mean? At least I thought I was. You know what I mean? So I want to play sports. I want to go back and I want to play. So if I'm on campus, I want to play. I don't care about this virus. I want to go hit somebody on Friday or Saturday, whenever we play.
Right.
So I think that some of the adults and some of these coaches and some of these school administrators have got to make the right decisions, because doing it the way it's being done right now, and I can't say everywhere because some parts of the country it's worse than others.
That's right.
I don't know, how do you police that when you have a bunch of cases in Atlanta, and I don't know for sure, but you may have another state, maybe Pennsylvania, and it could be a bad example, may not have as many cases. So they're like, well, we got ours under control here, so we can go back to normal, go back to work, go back to school. Because some parts of the country, kids have gone back to school and it's been no problem.
Yeah.
But other parts of the country, kids have gone back to school and it's been an issue. So how do we fix that? Well, you have to have leaders in that area that's making the right choices and the right decisions about what do we do moving forward for schools? What do we do moving forward for sports? I'm not going to sit up here as a 49-year-old man. Yes, I can say one thing, but I've been 18 before, and I've been in college. I understand what my son and what college kids are feeling. They're like, man, I've been waiting my whole life to get out of the house and go to school. And now I got to stay back at home and do college at home. It ain't no fun.
Yeah.
Ain't no fun having college at home.
That
Where
ain't
girls
what I signed
at?
up for.
Man, where the parties
That
at?
certainly ain't what I signed up for, Doc.
Where's the hooch? You know what I mean? Where's where's the football games? I mean, and the college experience,
Tailgating, all of that. And see,
tailgating, and all
we talked
that,
about the fact that tailgating is going to be over at Alabama. It's going to be over all of these major schools. No tailgate. Ole Miss. I've talked to a lot of people in the SEC, and no tailgating.
Yeah,
none at the University of Memphis.
Man, I'm telling you, tailgating I didn't know this until after sports, because I was always playing. But after getting cut in the pros and being able to be a part of the tailgating experience and being a part of being in the stands, I'm like, man, it's fun being a fan. Just being a fan and getting able to have your adult beverages and kicking it with your boys and having a good time. But we have to understand that right now, in order to get this thing under control, and we need our leadership saying that. In order to get this thing under control, we got to do A, B, C, D, and E, and everybody needs to be on the same page. Too many different scenarios and too many instructions, and that's why everybody's running wild, man. These people doing this, these people not going to school, these people going to school. These people the Big Ten is not playing sports, but the SEC is playing sports. And it's confusing for a young person. And if I'm in the Big Ten, I'm like, man, they playing football down south. Yeah. I want to play too. So now I'm thinking about transferring down south to go play.
Isn't that weird?
They're playing down there, but it's a tough situation now.
Well, and I want to jump. I want to stay in the education space, but I want to jump over to K through 12. And that's one of those spaces where you put a whole lot of your life and a whole lot of your time into working with our young people. Now, you got schools like, I think, Atlanta in your area, in my area in Memphis. Our district is going to be completely virtual. And it's going to be virtual through the first semester. We know the first semester, and the superintendent, who happens to be a Nuke, Dr. Joyce Ray, shout out to him, is doing a wonderful job.
What up, Nuke?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Ray, I know Dr. Ray very well.
Dr. Ray, yeah. Joyce, good brother, man, good brother.
Good man.
Kappa Beta brother. We're going to get out of it. But anyway, so you got these large, and we've got the largest district in this area, 95,000 students. They're going to be virtual. But you've got a district like New York, who has, I think New York is the largest district in the country.
Sure.
They have gotten their indices, their health indices, their numbers down so low that the governor says, and mayor seems to think so, as well as the superintendent, that they can open up schools.
Yeah.
Miami-Dade down, Dr. Cavallo down there, I don't think they're going to be doing the in-person right away. They'll be doing a hybrid, I think, of virtual. So again, you got all of these districts around the country that are doing something completely different, just like colleges and universities. And I don't see where that's going to be helpful to those of us who are saying, what's the one message we need to have, Brother Jackson?
Well, that's a tough question because there are school districts that have lower cases. And if you have lower cases in that town or that school district, why are these folks at home if you got lower cases, or you practicing social distancing? They're coming back to school in a way where everybody is keeping their distance. They got the chairs spread out and the instructor, they got, shields up. I've seen different scenarios, but that's the catch-22 because some areas are under control. Some areas are out of control. One thing I can tell you emphatically, I don't like to see people who don't work in school districts, who are not administrators, who are not superintendents, who are not school leaders making decisions about if schools should be open.
Whoa.
And they're being threatened by others saying, we're going to take your funding if you don't open, when somebody just watched their father or their mother or their grandfather die from COVID. My sister's had COVID-19 twice. She works in the medical field. So she beat it the first time, but she couldn't smell, she couldn't taste, she couldn't swallow. She was having a lot of issues. She couldn't hardly walk. She didn't know if she's going to make it. And then she beat it, and then she goes back to work a couple weeks later, and then she catches it again. You know what I mean? So some people who haven't experienced the tragedy of this disease and how it can take you down, maybe don't have the same viewpoint as somebody who's watched a family member suffer from it. You understand what I mean? So school officials and school leaders and teachers and psychologists and the counselors and all the folks, bus drivers, all the folks who are involved in the school system should be making decisions about if school's going to open, not somebody who's never going to step into that school building or that school district. So it's easy for me to tell you to go do something if I'm not doing it myself, if I'm not being a part of the part of that solution.
Well, and I want to stay right there in the school building. I was talking to an educator who is a member of my church, Marva Johnson. And Marva, she said, K-Tron, let me say this to you. The odd thing about it is students K through 3 absolutely need to be in a classroom environment. How difficult, Brother Jackson, will it be for me to teach sight words and actually how to socialize on a ThinkPad for a 6, 7, 8-year-old child?
I think it's extremely tough. But I heard the phrase that pain is temporary, but quitting is forever. And I'm looking at this like it's temporary. It is tough. And what we're not realizing, we're dealing with a new pandemic. Some kids really need to be in school because it's a safe place for them to be. We have parents and others out here abusing children. Domestic violence is on the rise. Child abuse is on the rise. Sexual assault is on the rise. Kids need to eat. Some kids are, for me, I'm not going to lie to you. I was on free lunch, when I was in school. I grew up in the inner city, Indianapolis, and Indianapolis public schools until I got bused to Perry Township. And I was on the free lunch program. So I was looking forward to getting to school to eat breakfast and eat lunch. So those are the different scenarios that I'm thinking about in my mind that I really cringe about, because some kids feel safer at school and kids are not able to go to school. And they're right home with those predators. They're home with those, whether it's verbal abuse or physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. They right home with that abuser. And that's what makes me cringe. And how do you police that? And I agree with you, K through 3, and not just K through 3. You got some folks who are in 7th and 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. They need that personal touch and that personal connection. And that's why I tell educators, as I'm educating them moving forward, I've been doing a lot of presentations this month with administrators, with teachers, school officials. I said, we have to make it interesting through the internet. We got to connect. You and I, you're in Memphis down there with my frat brother, Stacy Spencer, and all my folks down there in Memphis. You're down there with my peoples down there, and Dr. George Ray and Levi and all my brothers down there.
That's my boy.
Yeah, that's my guy. So everybody is dealing with something different. You know what I mean? And we have to make sure that we understand the dynamics of what's going on in that particular area. Unfortunately, we can't treat every area the same.
No.
It's like you can't treat two of your kids the same way. They're different. And we always want to compare our siblings. So I think we have to look at it, through a different lens. And there's two ways of seeing something. You see things through your physical vision and you see things through your imagination. And these numbers are real. Yeah. So if the numbers are growing in a certain area, we need to make sure we're paying attention to that. Schools need to follow those rules, but understand that we need some mental health services. We need some extended social services for those kids who we know need extra assistance. So maybe there's a scenario where we can pull those kids into a situation where we can separate them and still have them out of that household. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we know our kids. As an educator, one thing I prided myself on was getting to know who my audience is, getting to know who my kids are. Sometimes we got to make visits, even if it's a social distance visit, and see how our kids are living. In the old school, that's how they used to do.
Yes, sir.
Teacher pop up at your house. Remember that?
What? Yes, sir.
I remember Miss Thankster pop up at my house, and I got in deeper trouble than what I was already in. Because teachers actually cared, and they lived in your communities, and they would come to your house. We have got to get to know our kids, but a lot of our educators have their own anxiety. They're dealing with their own brokenness during this pandemic, and hurt people.
That's right. Well, and I want to stay right there. So I've got an educator who has taught, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, or 30 years, who this is what he or he does, and this is their passion, but they also have these comorbidities themselves that they're dealing with, but they want to be in a classroom. And now you have this, you got to juxtapose my health with my love and my passion. Mm-hmm. What are you saying to those administrators now? You got those who want to be there, but they just can't be there.
Well, I tell them just be patient. I feel the same way. I'm used to being on the road, getting in front of people, presenting. But for the last several months, I've been doing it through the internet, and it's been going well. I've still been able to connect with my audience. I spoke to 2,000 school leaders and teachers in Peoria, Illinois last week. And I've been speaking in Houston Independent School District for the last couple weeks. We still can make this thing work, but we have to buy into what's going on right now. We can only control what we can control. You can go jogging every day, but you can't control when it storms. That's right. You can't control when it rains, or you can't control when it snows. Well, you can. You got to move down closer to the south. But I'm just saying that, some things are out of your control. So what I would tell an administrator and an educator, which I've been in education 25 years, and I would tell any administrator and any educator, we have to be able to be adaptable. That means we have to adjust to some of the changes. And when you're adjusting, it's not always comfortable. And you have to be okay with being uncomfortable. I would rather be in your studio talking to you face to face, but we still getting the same results by talking while you in Memphis and I'm in Atlanta. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we have to make sure that we're able to adjust and move with the changes and keep in mind what's best for our staff, what's best for our students, and be able to have an open dialogue about how they're feeling and be able to take those points of reference back and do what's best for everybody.
Do our parents need to step up? And I think we have to be, this is funky politics. Let's call it what it is. Our parents have to step up. You're used to dressing a kid and sending them off to school now. Well, you don't have to dress them anymore, so to speak. Got to get them up and so they can get in front of the laptop or whatever they're in front of, right? Or the tablet. But, just now giving you the responsibility, Robert, being in the classroom, I've got to help design a space in the house that will allow this kid to learn, right? And so our parents have got to step up right now. This is one of those situations where even if you don't have the skill set to help teach them to read, at least make the environment of such, right? That the child can at least.
Well, I would tell parents, these kids didn't ask to be here. No. And kids are a blessing from God. These kids are your blessings. And these kids didn't ask to be here. So we got to stop treating our kids with disrespect and all this other stuff. We have to support our school system. And many of us, we didn't understand the lies of educators, but you understand now because these educators are with your kids all day that you can't even handle yourself. I've been hearing so many parents complaining, oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. Well, think about that teacher and that administrator and what we deal with on a daily basis with 40, 50, 60, 70 different attitudes every day. And we're trying to educate, activate, and motivate kids to be great. And now parents have been charged to do what? Be parents.
That's right.
A kid's first teacher is a parent. You are his first teacher. You are the fathers. You are his first teacher or her first teacher. And, and now it's time for parents to do what? Be parents. To be parents. That's right. It's not rocket science. It's time for you to be a parent. And as a parent, you got to do what's best for your children within reason. I have kids too. I got 2 daughters at home. And, my wife and I, we are juggling our jobs and our schedules to make sure that we're doing what we need to do with our children because our children are important and we got to make sure they have what they need. And too many parents are being selfish and thinking about yourself and you're using the school system as a babysitter. Now, I do agree that schools and parents and students need to work together for the best solution because every area is different. Some people need the internet at their house. Some people need devices. Educators got to be able to teach through a computer screen right now, but we need support from parents. Some parents are single parents and they have to work. That means if you're a single parent, still it takes 2 to bring a child into this world. So if you're a single parent, if the other parent is not deceased, somebody needs to step up. Yeah. And our parents do need support, but we also have to support each other. Another idea I was talking to some parents about a couple weeks ago. Sometimes, we got to take turns. Hey, I bring all the kids over here with social distance and they learn at my house today. And then, they can go to your house tomorrow. Then they go to such and such house on Wednesday and we'll keep on rotating because parents got to talk and you got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Self-care is important. But if we can juggle this thing a little bit, go to each other's homes, social distancing, of course, but there's different ways that we can think out of the box and really get the job done as a team because educators need support. Parents need support. Kids need support. So that's how we can support each other.
One of the things that, and I'll throw this out, and I don't know what they're doing in Atlanta, but with Keisha Lance down there, Bottoms, I'm sure she's trying to do everything she can to help support the new superintendent you got in APS. Sure. But what our district has done, working with the YMCA, they have opened up 70 satellite centers around the entire county. And I think they've got better than 5,000 spaces. So they're inviting those parents who are first responders and those who are essential workers and those who just don't have anybody to bring that child to one of these 70 centers.
Yeah.
Free of charge.
That's it.
Free of charge.
That's it.
The district will feed them breakfast, lunch, and heck, look like dinner because it's open from 6:30 to 6.
That's beautiful.
These are the types of innovative things that the community, the churches, every church in our community ought to be open for this.
I
Not
agree
because
100%.
of the money, but because the child needs the safety and security of a space, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And these are resources that our parents need to take advantage of.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of resources out there. So instead of spending time venting on Facebook and social media, we need to come up with some viable solutions that work. Parents got to work together. If you're having issues, you got to go to work. You need to work with your educators, work with that child's teacher, work with that child's principal. You may be able to go over his friend's house or her friend's house, and y'all can social distance and still learn together. But we cannot give up. Our kids need parents stepping to the plate and doing what you're supposed to do. And if you don't know what you're supposed to do, Google it. If you don't know what you're supposed to do, get somebody, lean on somebody, have an accountability partner. But we have to make sure that our kids are taken care of and in a safe environment. And we have to make sure the environment's safe. If you live in a small space, you live in a small space. I grew up in a house. It was 7 of us in the house. It was a very small house, but we still made it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, we didn't have the internet back when I was growing up. We didn't have cell phones, but kids have. I'm thanking God that we have the internet and that we have cell phones and that we have computers. Imagine being in a pandemic with no technology.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying? It could be worse. But because we have technology, let's try to work together and do what's best for our students and our parents and our educators.
And I want to kind of flip the coin a little bit here. The shirt you got on, Black Lives Matter. You mentioned you got 2 daughters, and of course you got a son in college. What do you say to young people, especially some of these real youngsters, about what's really going on right now? How do we help them in that mental capacity? Is that brain is developing to not be hateful? How do we do that right now, Doc? How do we do that? Because it's so easy to see a young man on a TV screen or on a phone being held by a shirt and being shot in the back 7 times, or an Ahmaud Arbery being shot by 2 guys who blocked him in because he was jogging through the neighborhood, or a young lady who was in her apartment, not my apartment, in her apartment. Or what about the young brother down in Dallas who was in his apartment?
Come on, man.
And the officer comes into his apartment
in his underwear, eating ice cream.
Yeah, eating ice cream, and you shoot and kill him. How do we help our young people from a mental health standpoint, Doc? How do we do that, Robert?
Well, we ever since slavery, we've been traumatized over and over again. And it started when, families being ripped apart, wives being raped by slave owners, and, all the racial injustice, just the way we even came here. And then the systemic things that were put in place. I would tell our young people, make sure you're reading and make sure you understand the history of how we got to where we are today. There's a lot of injustices going on. We've gone from slavery to convict leasing, and convict leasing is, you basically, the 13th Amendment says it ended slavery, abolished slavery, but only for those who are not in prison. So if you're in prison, you're still a slave, pretty much, right? So we've gone from slavery to convict leasing, where they can put you in jail for no reason and then lease you back out to the slave fields, to public lynchings, to Jim Crow, to now we got mass incarceration, which is modern day slavery, and we have public executions is what I call them. Because these executions have been going on for many years. Now it's public because we have cell phones and we have computers, so you can actually see some of these things. You can see the young guy, the 17-year-old, I call him a killer, the 17-year-old killer walking around with his rifle. And he walked right past the police.
Yeah, they just drove right by him like it didn't matter. I mean, we see him, but we don't see him.
He put his hands up, then he adjusted his gun. Now, let me ask you a question. If that was me or my 22-year-old son, and now I have a grandson, so I have 3 generations. I have a son and I have a grandson. If it was me, my son, or my grandson walking past those officers, people yelling out, he's the shooter. He the shooter. Do you think I would have lived to talk about it?
No, sir. No.
They need to understand that these racial injustices are real. Racial microaggressions are real. Invisibilization is real. That's an act of seeing a situation or person or circumstance as invisible, not important, without breath for depth. Pre-criminalization is real, but you cannot get anything done with your emotions. You know how you get things done? You vote. You know how you get things done? You activate your power with your money. You know how these young people getting things done? The NBA said we're not playing tonight. The MLB said we're not playing tonight. The WNBA said we're not playing tonight. You got to take a stand, young people. Martin Luther King, when he got murdered, he was 39 years old.
Yeah.
How old was Malcolm X? He was in his 30s.
That's right.
How old was Medgar Evers?
Yeah.
He was in his 30s.
That's right.
These young people, the movement, John Lewis, he started when he was in college. You got to use your voice, and you got to speak up, you got to speak out, and you got to speak often, but you got to know your history. That means we have thousands upon thousands of people who don't even vote. So if you're going to vent, and you're going to vent on social media, and you're going to vent and all that and not vote, You're spitting in the face of people who died so you can vote. We got to start activating our power by getting in positions of being judges and getting in positions of being lawyers and getting in positions of law enforcement so we can change this thing out. I don't believe all law enforcement is bad. No. I believe there's some bad apples that need to be dealt with, but we got to stop brushing over it like it's not happening. When this officer gets on TV in Kenosha and make excuses for the behavior of his police officers who were seen on video giving water to these young killers and murderers who are walking around here with machine guns, and he's giving them water.
Yeah, that's state-sponsored killing. You're telling me
walking past with your hands up, but they know who you are because just a few minutes earlier they gave you some water. Yeah. You know what they told him? Get out the street. Yeah. And he walked up to the car and they said, back away from the car, keep walking. He got a machine gun. If I had a baby, Tamir Rice was killed with a BB gun.
Philando Castile showed you his card. He said, I've got a card to carry. He said, give it to me. And he shot him.
So young people got to understand that racial injustice is real. People can get on TV and lie all they want to, like they've been lying all week. They can get on TV and lie all they want to. Yeah. But you know what's real, you know what's fake. You can lie to everybody, but you can't lie to yourself. That video's not a lie. That man's walking away, trying to get in the car with his kids, and you shoot him in the back, not once, not twice. You shot him 7 times. And our young people, I'm telling you, these young people today, they ain't putting up with this mess. They tired.
See, Rob, let me tell you, and the NBA just found out NBA will resume play this weekend. They are going to go back to playing, but now they have made a stand.
Are
they
you
said,
sure?
And these guys,
I haven't heard that
yet. Yeah, got it fresh off the press. My producer. These guys are saying, you want to see us play ball. The Major League Baseball, which I was really surprised at, and I don't want to call it, but it may last, it may not. Yeah, wow.
Hockey said, "Hey, man, I understand what's going on, but we playing tonight."
yeah. I mean, so until all of us are free, none of us are free, and that's what it comes down to. Until none. Just because it didn't happen to your kid, and there's some low down folk that'll do something to your white son like they will to a black. I've seen officers, both black and white. I'm not gonna put it all on the white officer. I've seen some black officers. I'm like,
oh yeah, some black officers off the chain too. I'm saying when I said, all officers are not bad, but I don't think ignorance has a color.
No, it doesn't.
No. Ignorance,
like all citizens are not good, right?
Exactly. But let me share with you: 90% of blacks are killed by blacks, right? Yep. So black on black crime is real. Can we go ahead and say that? But 85% of white people kill white people. Yeah. So white on white crime is real too. So 2% of black males commit violent crimes. That means the other 98% are trying to go home. But society treats us like 98% are committing crimes. This man is walking away, and you shoot him in the back. But if you go kill 9 people at a church, not only will they take you to Burger King, they give you a cold water and you walk away without a scratch. Now, you can sit up here and disagree all you want, but what's real is real. We are being mistreated in this country. We've been mistreated for many years, and we're sick of it. We want to be treated equally. And I'm seeing all of these brothers on TV crying, Doc Rivers, and I'm seeing Troy Vincent from the National Football League, which I'm a part of the NFL Players Association. And I'm seeing all these different brothers on TV showing all these emotions, and LeBron James saying, he's scared, and, scary being a black man in this country. No, we're going to stand up. Yeah. We're not living in fear. I walk by faith. Yeah. And in the Bible, it said the righteous ones shall live by faith. We're going to stand up because I got God behind me. That's who my armor is, right? And we have to make sure that as black people, and I got some of my white brothers and sisters been reaching out to me on social media. What can I do? You know what I tell them, brother? I said, speak up, speak out, and speak often. You need to have the conversation of race with your children. You need to have a conversation of race with your colleagues. You need to have the conversation of race with your family members. You need to have this conversation of race ongoing. And you need to be able to sit down with people from different ethnicities and different cultures and be able to listen, because diversity and inclusion is about respect and acceptance for one another. And until we respect and accept each other, we're going to still be in the same mess that we're in right now.
You know, what I am encouraged by, Rob, is that the protests that I have seen, the ones I've laid eyes on, it's not just been all black.
Yeah.
It's been a mixture of races, of course, of gender, and all types of identity. And I get that. I get that. But I'm wondering, with the RNC on this week, are they getting it? And if they are not getting it, what America are they looking at, Doc? I mean, because you can't get up here and tell me that this president has done more to benefit the black community than any other president ever. I mean, come on, you say ever. Hell, at least I'm going to give it to Lincoln that he did more for black folk than anybody else. I mean, you got to give that one to Lincoln. He has surpassed Lincoln because he signed what he considers to be a crime bill. Now, let me make sure people understand about this crime bill that this president signed. Understand that the only thing he affects with this act is federal charges.
Wow.
It does not affect state charges, and I'll go to my grave saying that, and it's the damn truth.
Right?
So when he releases somebody from a prison, it's from a federal prison. It ain't from Brushy Mountain. Well, we don't even have Brushy Mountain in Tennessee anymore, but it's not from Northwest. It's not from Northwest Correctional. It's from FCI, any of the federal institutions. That's what happens, man. He's not going out opening doors down in Mississippi. He's not doing that.
We need somebody who's bringing everybody together. And to me, this leader, or he call himself a leader, this person is causing a lot of divisiveness in this country. And, to me, that's increasing these people coming to the surface and feeling like they can walk down the street with machine guns and just shoot innocent people for no reason. They got to guard a store. Little boy, you don't even live over here. You're not even from here. Your mother drove you here just so you can do what you did. And now you're sitting in a jail cell, and you should rot in that jail cell for the rest of your life because you shouldn't have been there in the first place. That was for peaceful protesting. You coming out there with a machine gun, with an AR-15 or whatever you have, with plenty of ammunition. You plan on doing something. And what you did was what you planned to do. And what I'm disgusted with, and what you should be, all of us should be disgusted with, is how those police officers in Kenosha handled it. Yeah. People are yelling out, "Hey, he just shot some people." That's him right there. He's walking out with his gun. He put his hands up, then he put them down. He put them up, and the gun's dangling on his arm. And
they were ambivalent.
I seen one truck passing, two trucks passing, three police cars passing. I'm like, do they see what I see? And he just walked off into the sunset. Into the night, and got in the car with his mom and went on back to where he came from. This is what I'm talking about. That is the racial injustice I'm talking about. But Tamir Rice is in the park playing with a play gun, and he gets killed.
That the caller said it appears to be a fake gun, but somebody might take it as though it's real. That's what the dispatcher said. He said that's what the caller said. But he goes there, and I've been to that. I've been to that playground. When I went to Cleveland to visit my nephew, I had to go and stand on the ground. I had to go there. Something said you got to go and see where this was committed at.
Yeah,
just had to go, man. Just like in Memphis, where you got to be there. You got to see it.
Oh yeah, I've been there. I've been to the Lorraine Motel. Is it Lorraine Motel?
Yeah, Lorraine Motel. That's good.
Oh man, I've been there.
And so,
I just think that these folks know exactly what they doing, man. And they want to put all these fear tactics and all this stuff out there, man. Black people getting tired, man. And we're not going to just sit back and just keep allowing this stuff to happen. I'm a believer, but I also believe in using what God has blessed me to use. And I use my platform to speak about social injustice and bring about these changes because, there's a lot of people. I have a son, I have a grandson, and I mentor a lot of people. And we got to start stepping up as adults and doing the right thing. If you call yourself an adult and you're over 18 years old and you're not voting, you're not helping us. You're hurting us. Because there are thousands of black people, especially, that are not voting. And to your point earlier, there's always been a lot of white people in the fight. Nobody's on here saying that all white people are bad.
No.
Nobody's on here saying that all police officers are bad. Nobody's saying, I mean, I know some ignorant black police officers. I know some ignorant black people too.
Yeah.
You know, what I'm saying is when somebody, whether you black, white, or green, if you go out here and you commit a crime, you commit a felony, or you commit a crime against somebody, you need to be prosecuted. Whether you black, white, green, whether you're a police officer, an FBI agent, or a regular citizen, you walk up and shoot somebody in the back 7 times that's walking away from you. I don't get that. I'm never going to understand why you shot that man 7 times. Why do we always get shot 7 times? Stephon Clark in Sacramento was shot 20 times. Why you shoot that man 20 times and he got a cell phone in his hand? You know, I'm never going to understand that. You know, and that's something that needs to be addressed. I'm prayerful that these players continue to take a stand, but now you told me they playing this weekend. You know, I was hoping that they continue to take a stand, and they take a stand until the murderers of Breonna Taylor are arrested. Take a stand to the murderers of Jacob Clark, not murderers, but the person who shot him 7 times should be in jail, and he needs to be prosecuted just like the police officer who killed George Floyd.
That's right. Well, you know, one thing I think that will help is to see that there is a change. And I hate to be partisan, but hell with it. Funky pop. I'm going to be partisan. This president that we have now has fomented so much hatred and racist crap. I don't know anybody that in my circle that believes this guy is a right fit for this country, man, at this time. And I hear people saying all the time, we need somebody to heal the country. Well, you have an opportunity to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But now then I see our people on this side trying to take down Kamala Harris. I'm like, no, damn, y'all, we can't have it both ways now. I understand.
I wish we had another hour to unfold that. Unless you've been perfect and live a perfect life, leave that sister alone. Everybody's made some good choices and bad choices in life. And unless you made all good decisions, man, stop condemning people. That's crazy to me.
And you know, she was hired as the prosecutor for San Francisco. People got to understand what the state attorneys or the attorney general's job it is to represent the people. And the people are the state or the U.S., right? So William Barr, as nutty as he is, when it says, when you go to federal court, it says the United States versus you. That's who's representing the United States. This guy, the prosecutor, his job is to bring justice to both sides.
Sure.
If you didn't do it, his job is to make sure that you can prove that you didn't do it. And I don't get this about Kamala Harris. You know, did she do something? She still wasn't for the death penalty. Even when there was an officer involved killing, she did not support the death penalty.
Let me tell you something, man. If you commit crimes, you out here selling drugs, you out here killing people, you need to go to jail. Now, if Kamala Harris is locking up people who haven't done anything wrong or given long sentences, let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm not for no mess like that. Yeah. But to your point earlier with Agent Orange, I mean, what's his name? I can't remember.
That's a good word for it. He's deadly.
If you're calling yourself a leader and you don't expect to be talked about, you're not ready to lead.
Yeah.
Right? Leadership doesn't require a title, but everybody with a title is not a leader. Right? You're supposed to be leading everybody, and the only thing I see you doing is causing divisiveness with this country. You step up, and these people who are messing with peaceful protesters, you calling them good people or good citizens, you know. And then when it took him forever to say something about the George Floyd case, he still hasn't said anything about in all of these speeches he's doing. He said nothing about, you know, Jacob Clark and the rest of these folks. When you're a narcissist like that, I mean, it's kind of hard for you to see past your nose. We have to step up as a people. And I'm talking about black people, white people, Asian, Hispanic. It don't matter what your race or your ethnicity is. We got to come together. Even if this person is not leading us to come together, we are adult enough, we are mature enough where we can come together as a people and work on these solutions together. Because there's a lot of good people out here of all races. And there's some bad people of all races. And we need to come together and start talking about some solutions and not continue to focus on some of the problems. And now I'm not dismissing anything that just happened, because we need to make sure that these things are fresh in our mind. But how are we bringing about solutions now? We talking about defunding the police department. You just seen a police department that needs to be defunded in Kenosha. You have a police chief who's getting on TV defending this mess that we saw on videotape. That's unacceptable.
Hey, you know what, Brother Jackson, I'm gonna let that be the last word, man. We got a lot of, in other words, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do. We
need 3 more segments, man, so we can work through it.
I know, man. We can't leave it to them, those, or yonder. We got to do this ourselves. We got to put our hands on this work. It's gonna get ugly before it looks prettier. There
is no perfect candidate. Make sure you say there is no perfect candidate.
No,
there's no perfect person on this planet.
No,
there's no perfect candidate. Only one's perfect is God.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no perfect candidate. We got to choose the best of whatever we have.
That's right.
And that's what I'm rolling with.
I mean, that's how it is. I mean, you know what? Bottom line to it, even when we got married, I chose, well, I was dating her, but I chose the best one I thought was for me, right? So it wasn't one of those things where, well, I guess I won't do anything. No, I married her. That's the one I chose. So make your choice. Hey, Doc, Rob, man, we got to get you back on the show again, man.
Get out and vote.
That's what I like to hear, man.
Get off your butt and vote. There's no excuse for you not to vote. You don't have no legs, you crawl. Yeah. You're turning your absentee ballot. Get your butts out and vote. I will wheel you in myself. Hit me on my website, robertjacksonmotivates.com. I will get somebody in your area to come and get you to take you to vote. No excuse. Let's do it again, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you being here on Funky Politics. I'll be right back with some closing thoughts.
Bless you, man.
All right, brother.
With network marketing, it's pretty much, especially because you're running a business under someone else's company.
Yeah.
So, it's difficult to get into vending shows and trade shows. You can only have one of, your particular business at shows. So that was a huge difficulty.
So we're getting some of the nitty gritty for the grind set audience about network marketing. Huh?
Right. Hey, KUDZUKIAN fans, it's Cynthia Daniels, host of Grind Set, and you don't want to miss our next show. We hope you have the KUDZUKIAN app downloaded so you'll be ready for what's about to drop.
KUDZUKIAN. Check out all your KUDZUKIAN favorites now. Download the KUDZUKIAN app, available on Android and iOS.
Hey, I try to always bring the firepower. When I told you, Brother Robert Jackson, good news, out of Atlanta, originally out of Indianapolis, was going to be on the show and he was going to lay it down for us, he did that thing. We got to have folks to activate, and we got to have folks to mobilize. We got to have folks to motivate. We got to have all of that going into the 2020 election. If not, you're going to find yourself left out. The brother said it. Get off your butt and go vote. Get off your butt and go vote. But before you do that, before you go to the polls, before you do that absentee ballot, before you go outside the house, make sure you're washing your hands. Make sure you got that mask on when you walk out of that door. We can do all of these things to improve our country, and we can do them well, but I need to make sure that you're still here so you can even think about putting your hands to some work. Got a lot of work to do. Got a lot of repairs to do, a lot of repairing to do. There's a lot of breaches in our country. From a racial standpoint, there's a lot of breaches in our country from race to race, and we have got to repair that. And there's just no way around it. We will not succeed as a country unified going forward if we do not repair the hurt that's within. All right. Once again, I really appreciate you being with me right here on Funky Politics. We will see you next time with more of this wonderful, wonderful opportunity to talk to leaders and thought partners around the country. See you again next time.